Hi everyone, it's Abby with the Bead Place and beadplace.net, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make one of our rhinestone fishbone bracelets. All the materials we're using today can be found at www.beadplace.net. Today we'll be using our large 301 fishbone chain. We'll also be using crystal cup chain in 3mm. We'll need approximately 3 to 4 feet of our vegan suede. We'll need some jump rings and a clasp of your choosing. Our first step is to measure your wrist. So my wrist is 6 inches, so I've cut a piece of fishbone chain that is 6 inches. Our next step is to count the number of links in the fishbone chain that we're going to be using. So for a 6-inch piece, mine is about 32. My wrist is a little bit under 6 inches, so I cut it a little bit short. So I've got 32 links of this fishbone chain. So now I need to make sure that I have a piece of rhinestone chain cut to 32 links. So next, we're going to cut 4 feet of our vegan suede. So our first step is to tie the suede cord onto the end loop of our fishbone chain. So string it through, and then we're just going to do the first part of a knot. So over and under, and then pull it tight. Now, because the vegan suede is a little bit spongy and stretchy, we don't need to tie another knot to secure it, but if you'd like, you can add a little bit of glue to hold it more securely if you feel like you need to. I like to leave a little bit of a tail, and that will help hold it as well. If you are deciding to trim your tail shorter, just make sure that you add a drop of glue. So I have positioned my knot so that it's in the back of my work. Now what I'm going to do is bring the end of my cord through the first 2 arms of the fishbone chain. So this is the first one right here, and then the second one is right here. So I'm bringing the cord through the first 2 arms of the fishbone chain. Now what I'm going to do is lay the rhinestone chain directly on top of the fishbone chain, and I'm going to take the suede and bring it through those 2 arms where it was before, in between the first 2 rhinestones, and then also between the first 2 arms of fishbone chain on the other side. So it's coming from the back, in between the 2 arms of the top. It's going between the first 2 rhinestones, and it's also then going between the first 2 arms of the other side of the fishbone chain, and then wrapping around the back. So it's going to come around in a spiral and then go between the next 2 arms of the fishbone chain, between the next 2 rhinestones, and then also between the other side next 2 arms of the fishbone chain. And bring it around again. Now the first few wraps like this are going to feel pretty awkward, so don't be surprised if they're a little bit messier or they're difficult to maneuver, because as we go it'll get easier. And as we're working, the cool thing about this project is as it looks a little bit neater towards the middle and the other end, you can decide if you want to go back in and unknot this side, re-spiral it around, and tie your knot again to neaten it up a little bit. So I do want to mention as we work that it's important that your vegan suede is going through at a bit of an angle or sideways like this. You don't want to lay it flat in between like this, because what that's going to do is it's going to force these rhinestone chains apart rather than letting them relax in a little bit. And as it's forcing it apart, it's going to make our bracelet curl a little bit too hard, which can make it just sit kind of funny on your wrist. As we work, you'll notice that there is kind of a top and a bottom to this bracelet. The middle kind of curb chain sits at a little bit of an angle, and that's just the way that the chain is designed. So the rhinestone chain is actually going to sit right in the middle of that angle. So it's going to sit a little higher. and therefore as we wrap the suede, it angles the rhinestone chain up. So I like to wear my bracelets this way so that the rhinestone chain is at the top rather than the bottom. And that way when I look down at it, I can see that pretty rhinestone sparkle. So just continue working like this for the entire bracelet. You want to keep relatively uniform tension if you can. You don't want to pull it too tight so that it starts to twist, but you don't want it so loose that your rhinestone chain is able to kind of shift underneath the suede. So you'll kind of find that perfect amount of tension as you work. So now that we're at our last loop, what we're going to do is bring the cord around just like we normally would. So bring it through the last two arms, in between the last two of the rhinestone cups, and then around to the back. So now what we're going to do is kind of tie a knot just like we normally would to start it. So we're going to bring our tail end through this link here, kind of behind that rhinestone chain, and we're just poking it through. So as it comes through, what we're going to do is make sure that the tail end is going to go through this loop, and so that's what's going to tie our little knot. So we need to just tighten it, make sure that that knot is on the back side of your work. If it's not, then chances are you've gone through the loop in the wrong direction. So now what we can do is trim our tail ends so that they match in length and add a clasp. So I'm going to be using jump rings to add my toggle clasp onto my bracelet. Anytime you open and close a jump ring, you want to make sure that you are opening and closing it like this and never like this. And that's going to ensure that you can close the jump ring exactly in that same shape that it was before we opened it. And then you can kind of see it a little bit better to make sure that it's closed all the way. So I have my jump ring so that the break is at 12 o'clock. One of my pliers is coming in from the side and the other one is straight up and down, covering almost one whole side of that jump ring. So I'm going to just rotate my pliers back in order to open the jump ring. So now what I'm going to do is take that jump ring through the last link of the chain and then also place my toggle into it. So I like to use the ring side of the toggle with one jump ring, and then I'll use a couple of jump rings on the other side. So when I go to close it, I have my pliers set up similarly to how I had them to open it. However, this way we kind of just have to go in whatever angle we can, since there's so much stuff kind of blocking the way. So we just adjust our pliers so that we can close the ring using the right angle, and then always check from the top like this as well to make sure that it's not off kilter and won't scratch you when you wear it. So we'll repeat these same steps to add the bar side of the toggle to the other side of the bracelet. However, we'll use a couple of jump rings on that side to add some extra flexibility so that the bar can easily pass through the ring. At this point, we can adjust the sizing by adding more jump rings, and that will make the bracelet a little bit looser on your wrist. So after we've added the toggle bar on, then we have a finished bracelet. So as I clean up from today's workshop and our video tutorial, I just want to remind you that all the materials that we use today can be found at beadplace.net. The links will be in the description below. You can purchase the materials individually or in a kit. We have really fun kits available with a ton of video tutorials to go with all of them. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give us a big thumbs up. It really helps us out. If you have any questions or just want to say hey, drop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video so much that you'd like to see more like this, subscribe to our channel, and thanks so much for watching. The first thing that we're going to do is measure our wrist.